chosen one, your dark side, protected your light, even angels are scared. You are not here by accident. And if you feel stirring inside you, right now do not ignore it, because something powerful is unfolding in your life. At this very moment, I am speak directly to you. What I'm about to say is going to hit you somewhere you haven't let anyone reach in a very long time. You didn't survive everything you've been through because you were lucky. You survived because something inside you, something that even you don't fully understand yet, refused to let you break all the way. And here's what nobody ever told you. That thing that kept you alive, it wore darkness as a disguise. It looked like anger. It looked like silence. It looked like walls so thick that even the people who loved you couldn't get through. But it wasn't destruction. It was protection. And today, we're going to talk about exactly why. You've been told your whole life that your sensitivity is a weakness. That the way you feel things too deeply, too intensely that's a flaw, something to fix, something to medicate, manage, suppress. You've probably heard it from family, from people who claim to love you, maybe even from yourself, on those nights when everything got too loud and you couldn't figure out why you felt so different from everyone around you. You look around and other people seem fine. They laugh easily. They don't lie awake at 3 in the morning, replaying conversations from years ago. They don't feel the weight of a room the second they walk into it. And you've started to wonder, what is wrong with me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is wrong with you. But something is happening to you. Something is being revealed. And the darkness you've carried, minus the hardness you built, the distance you put between yourself and the world, minus that wasn't a mistake. It was a gift you gave yourself when you had nothing else left to give. 1. Your darkness was built on a foundation of survival, not weakness. Let's go back, way back. Think about the version of you that first learned to go cold, to go quiet, to stop expecting things from people who kept disappointing you. That wasn't you giving up. That was you adapting. Psychologists call it a defense mechanism. But that clinical language strips away the raw truth underneath it. The truth is, you were in pain, you were young, and nobody showed you a better way through it. So your mind did the only thing it knew how to do, it built a wall. And behind that wall, everything soft in you survived. Your dreams, your love, your capacity to care about strangers, about animals, about the state of the world. All of it stayed warm behind that cold exterior. You didn't lose yourself. You protected yourself. 2. The people who triggered your shadow were actually revealing your depth. Here's something most people never figure out. Every person who hurt you, minus every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment someone made you feel invisible or worthless, they weren't just hurting you. They were forcing something to the surface. Jung called it the shadow, but forget the academic language for a second. Let's just call it the part of you that got tired of being gentle when the world kept being cruel, when you snapped, when you went cold, when you stopped answering calls or cut people off without explanation, that shadow came out. And yes, sometimes it overreacted. Sometimes it burned things down that didn't need to burn. But it also stopped you from becoming someone's permanent punching bag. Your shadow had edges, sharp ones, and those edges saved you from situations that would have consumed a softer version of you entirely. 3. Chosen people are tested in ways that would shatter ordinary souls. I want you to think about everything you've walked through. The losses. The moments where the floor dropped out from under you, and you had to figure out how to breathe again with no one explaining how. The seasons where you prayed for things that never came. The relationships that left you emptier than before they started. Now ask yourself, how many people you know have carried that and still show up, still try, still hope, still reach for something better, even when everything in their history says stop hoping. That's not common. That is extraordinary. The path of the chosen person is never a straight, comfortable line. It's a spiral through darkness, and every time you come back around, you're higher than you were before minus. But the climb is brutal, and the people around you who haven't taken that climb, they will never fully understand what it cost you. That's not their fault, but it is the truth. 4. Your isolation was not rejection, minus it was sacred recalibration. There have been seasons of your life where you pulled away from everything. Maybe people thought you were depressed. Maybe they called you antisocial. Maybe they stopped calling altogether because you never called back. But what was actually happening in that silence? You were integrating. You were processing years of experience that your conscious mind had never fully dealt with. You were, without even knowing the word for it, recalibrating your entire sense of self. Animals do this instinctively. When they're wounded, they go still. They find a quiet space. They stop expending energy on performance and redirect everything toward healing. Your isolation was the same impulse, and the people who read it as rejection were wrong. You weren't rejecting the world. You were refusing to pour from an empty cup just because the world expected you to keep giving. 5. The rage you felt was grief wearing armor. This one might be the hardest to hear. That anger you carried, minus maybe still carry, minus the kind that comes from somewhere so deep you can't always trace it back to a single moment. It wasn't just anger. It was grief. Grief for the childhood you deserved and didn't get. Grief for the version of yourself that kept trusting people and kept getting burned. Grief for all the love you poured into places that never reflected it back. Anger is easier to carry than grief. It keeps you moving. It gives you an edge. It tells your nervous system that you're still a threat, not a target. But underneath it, minus right at the center of all that heat, minus there is a tenderness, so profound it would make you fall to your knees if you let yourself feel it fully. That tenderness is the real you. The anger was just the bodyguard. 6. Your sensitivity is a form of intelligence. The world hasn't learned to name yet. You pick up on things. You walk into a room and know something is off before anyone says a word. You can feel when someone is lying, even when their words sound perfectly rehearsed. You sense shifts in energy, minus in friendships, in spaces, in the atmosphere of a conversation, minus that other people completely miss. And your whole life, people have tried to make you feel crazy for it. You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. Why do you make everything so complicated? Because you're wired differently. Not broken, not faulty. Different. Empathy, at the level you experience it, is not a personality quirk. It's a form of intelligence, minus emotional, energetic, relational intelligence, minus that the world needs desperately right now and doesn't have a proper vocabulary for yet. The people who couldn't handle the depth of you were never your people to begin with. 7. Every dark night you survived was adding something to you, not just think about the hardest thing you've ever been through. Now think about who you were before it, and who you are now. There is a version of you that existed before certain things happened, minus, and there is the version reading these words right now. And I want to ask you honestly, which version is more awake? Pain metabolized correctly doesn't leave you weaker. It leaves you with a kind of knowing that no class, no book, no life coach on the internet can give you. It leaves you with depth, and depth is rare. Most aren't. People spend their entire lives skimming the surface because going deeper terrifies them. You didn't have a choice but to go deep. Life pulled you under enough times that you either learned to swim in the dark or you gave up. You learned to swim. 8. Odd. The reason you feel called to something bigger is because you are there is this quiet ache you've had for most of your life. A feeling that you're meant for something, not in an arrogant way minus not, I'm better than everyone, minus, but in a deeply unsettling, can't quite shake it way. Like there is something you're supposed to do, or say, or build, or become. And you're running out of time even though you can't explain why. That feeling is not delusion. That feeling is direction. The people who change the world, the people who shift culture, who shift families, who break generational cycles that have been running for decades, minus those people, all felt what you're feeling. That restlessness, that hunger for more than this. Your darkness sharpened you for exactly this, because only someone who has stood in real darkness can be trusted to carry real light without dropping it when things get hard. 9. Integration is the mission minus, not the disappearance of your shadow. Here is the thing most people get wrong about healing. They think the goal is to eliminate the dark parts, to become so healed, so whole, so enlightened that the anger and the grief and the shadow simply evaporate. That's not how it works. And chasing that version of healing will exhaust you. The real goal is integration. It's not killing your shadow minus, it's partnering with it, learning to hear what it's trying to protect without letting it drive the car. Your darkness doesn't need to disappear. It needs to be understood. Named, given a seat at the table, minus just not the head of the table. When you stop fighting the parts of yourself that frightened you, something extraordinary happens. They stop fighting back, and all that energy you spent on internal war, it, day, becomes fuel for creativity, for purpose, for the life you've been quietly building toward through all of this. You are not a broken person trying to become whole. You are a whole person who has been carrying the weight of experiences that would have permanently ended someone else. Your darkness was never your enemy. Your shadow was never the villain of your story. They were the parts of you that stood between you and complete destruction minus. And they held the line imperfectly and sometimes painfully, but they held it. And now you're here, still standing, still searching, still willing to sit with a video like this, because some part of you knows there is more to who you are than what the hardest chapters revealed. You're right, there is so much more. And the work now minus the real, sacred work minus, is not to punish yourself for the walls you built. It's to walk back through them, slowly, and introduce yourself to the person who was living inside them this whole time. That person is still in there, waiting, softer than you remember, braver than you give them credit for. You are the chosen one minus, not because life was easy on you, but because it wasn't. And you're still here, still reaching, still becoming. That is everything. If this found you at the right moment, minus if something in here felt like it was written specifically for you, minus consider subscribing. Every week, This channel goes deeper into the psychology of people who were built for more. You belong here.